At the age of 80 years old in Kushingar, India, in 486 BC, Gautama Buddha took his final breath of living air. Being that he was a leading religious figure at the time, a vast amount of his followers were affected by his death, but more importantly, by his life and the religion that he shaped to be known as Buddhism. Said to have predicted his death 3 months prior to the event, the Buddha took on a godlike persona which he still holds to this day. According to Theravada Buddhist tradition, he died on the night of the full moon in the lunar month of Visakha. This is known in present day as either May or June. After a final meal of what historians believe was soft pork provided by a blacksmith named Kuda, the Buddha called upon his attendant Ananda to prepare a bed for him between 2 sal trees. This is where he passed away. It is reported that Gautama Buddha's final words were as follows: "Behold, O monks, this is my last advice to you. All component things in the world are changeable. They are not lasting. Work hard to gain your own salvation." He then fell into what is referred to as his final state of nirvana. Directly following the Buddha's death, the sal trees bloomed out of season, and a shower of heavenly flowers rained down upon the site, followed by divine music. However, many believe this to be a myth. Due to the fact that the sal trees did bloom out of season, there has been debate over when the Buddha did actually die. Some will say that the trees miraculously bloomed unexpectedly, while others hold to the idea that the Buddha may have, in fact, passed away at a different time when the sal trees were in season. This is just one of the many debates historians and Buddhist believers have in regard to the historical life and death of the Buddha. Following the Buddha's passing, legend says that his body was burned for several days until it was reduced to ashes. The ashes were deposited into 8 special mound-shaped monuments called stupas. Legend also claims that 7 kingdoms came to Kushingar with the intention of claiming the Buddha's remains to bring back to their kingdoms. However, the Mallas of Kushingar did not want to part with his ashes, and a conflict arose as to who deserved to keep and worship his ashes as their own. The Brahmandana spoke to the entire assembly, pleading the following: "One word from me I beg you, sirs, to hear. Our Buddha taught us ever to forbear. Unseemly would it be should strife arise, and war and bloodshed over the custody of his remains, who was the best of men. Let us all, sirs, in friendliness agree to share 8 portions, so that far and wide stupas may rise, and seeing them mankind, faith in the all-enlightened one will find." Feeling as if the Brahmandana had made a valid point, the men agreed to divide the ashes 8 ways and spread the memory of the Buddha throughout the land for all to enjoy. There are various theories as to how and why the Buddha actually did die, and they have been disputed over time. One of these theories is that Gautama Buddha passed away after and due to his final meal, which was believed to be called Sukaramadava, which has been translated to mean boar's delight or soft pork. Some scholars believe the dish included wild mushrooms, while others feel as if it was just wild boar's flesh. What is agreed upon, however, is that the dish was an offering by Kunda, a blacksmith. The Buddha advised Kunda to only serve the dish to him and bury the rest in a hole. Kunda complied with his wishes. Soon after the meal, the Buddha fell violently ill and died soon after. According to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which was said to be the most reliable source for details of the Buddha's death, the Buddha was an old man who complained of his failing health and growing senility. He almost lost his life earlier that year during his last retreat to Vesali due to severe pain in his stomach. After this, he was forced to come to terms with his unexpected illness and final death. This idea is consistent with the fact that he had predicted his final days 3 months prior to the actual day. However, there is another theory of how the Buddha died, which is completely different than that of the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. This theory says that the Buddha was a miracle worker, not a grumpy old man. He beamed himself and his monks across the Ganges River and had a divine vision of settlement of gods on earth. He did determine the time of his own death, but was forced to come to terms with it quickly due to its rapid onset. This theory believes that the Buddha was capable of living until the end of the world and all mankind, only under the condition that someone invited him to do so. This burden of inviting the Buddha to continue living was placed upon the shoulders of his attendant Ananda. Ananda, either not aware or not motivated to do so, may not have ever invited the Buddha to continue his life, or he could have done so too late. However, this story is not as believable as the first theory. Thus, many believe it is just a legend and the true cause of his death stemmed from his last meal. While these are two examples of legends used to describe the events leading up to the Buddha's death, and neither of them can be confirmed or denied, there are some aspects of the story that scientists and historians can confirm as true. For one, it has been confirmed that the Buddha became suddenly ill after eating a special delicacy provided by the blacksmith Kunda. The symptoms noted were the same symptoms one may have with a disease called mesenteric infarction. This would include acute abdominal pain, the passage of blood. It is often triggered by a meal, and it is most commonly found in elderly people. After Gautama Buddha died, the news traveled very fast. 7 days after his death, the news reached Venerable Mahakassapa, the third chief disciple of the Buddha, and 500 Theras that he was traveling with. All of the Theras plunged into a deep state of grief and lamented for days. However, there was an old monk, Supada, who rejoiced over his death, claiming that they were now free. It is said that his words were, "Do not be sad, brothers. Cry not. We are now free of the great ascetic. He constantly worried us, saying, 'This is suitable, this is not suitable.' Now we are free to do what we like." Upon hearing someone speak like this, Venerable Mahakassapa became alarmed and concerned about the future of the Buddhist religious system and began taking steps to ensure its stability. He suggested that a council be held with only leading arahants attending, which would collect, classify, and rehearse the teachings of the Buddha in order to protect the sasana against mental or physical attack. The elder monks welcomed this suggestion, and arrangements were made for such a council to be held. King Ajasati was informed of the idea and made all necessary arrangements for the monks to meet at the entrance of the Satapani cave at Rahagala. This meeting became known as the First Buddhist Council and was held just 3 months after the death of the Buddha. At this council, the Vinaya was discussed, as well as the disciplinary rules for monks and nuns. The discourse of the Buddha recited, and the Pali Tipitaka, or Buddhist scriptures, were arranged. 2 more councils would later follow with the intentions of doing the same thing. In the present time, there are still many Buddhists who worship the religion and the Buddha himself. Along with this act of worship, there have been certain festivals and celebrations created to both honor and remember the Buddha as a religious leader. One of these days is called Parinirvana Day and is held on February 15th of every year. This Mahayana Buddhist festival marks the death of the Buddha and is also known by the name Nirvana Day. The festival is celebrated because Buddhists believe that having attained enlightenment, the Buddha achieved freedom from all physical existence and its suffering. Buddha Day was created as a time to celebrate the birth, enlightenment, and passing of the Buddha. It is celebrated in April on the night of the full moon, which believed by many to be the day the Buddha died. Finally, in July or August, there is a day entitled Bon, which stands for the Buddha Memorial Day. It is an occasion for rejoicing in the enlightenment offered by the Buddha and is often referred to as a gathering of joy. Along with these festivals and celebrations, the Buddha is commemorated in many other ways as well. Some of his remains can still be seen to this day in a highly guarded gold shrine in the New Delhi Museum in New Delhi, India. Along with this, there are many statues that have been resurrected in memory of Gautama Buddha. One of these statues, Dafo, or the Grand Buddha, is located in Lishan, China. This 71-meter-tall structure is the largest Buddhist structure in the world and sits on the convergence of the Mingjiang, Dadu, and Qingyi rivers. According to records, the structure took 90 years to build under the supervision of Emperor Tang Huangzong. The statue is said to successfully convey the wisdom and creativity of the ancient people, and more importantly, the Buddha himself. The second largest Buddha statue in the world is called Wat Pho Buddha and resides in Thailand. It was built during the Ayutthaya period between 1688 and 1703 and has a particularly outstanding feature of pearl-ornamented feet. It is located in the Temple of the Reclining Buddha and was built on the site of an old monastery. There are a vast amount of other memorials and monuments that have been resurrected in honor of the Buddha, as well as numerous gardens and temples. The Buddha was a highly worshipped and respected man who brought important ideas about not only religion, but life in general to the world.